Hello guys and welcome to the channel. This is WvW. In today's video we will talk about my Untamed condition build for roaming. We'll be discussing everything from trait, gears, skills, bits, weapons, options, and you will have timestamps, so feel free to check it. And this also quite the concept of a build, so it's very free. You can change a lot of things in it. We will be talking about advantage and disadvantage of every change you want to make. And I will be putting a link in the description for my own version. It's what I choose to do from all those options and how it will work. We'll be also comparing it with Druid and talking how you play it, like everything in details. Feel free to get back to this video, use the timestamps and all. And let's go from the easy stuff first, the things that doesn't have much option, and then we go deeper into our choices. So first we go with the traits. It's a standard condition ranger, so it will always go with skirmishing, wooden survival, and obviously it is an untamed. So in skirmishing you get your typical miners. Every time you swipe weapon you get 9 seconds of swiftness and 5 seconds of fury, and you also when flanking you get extra damage and critical chance. This is a power trait, so it doesn't matter to us technically, and also the fury doesn't matter as much. We have nothing on critical and we are condition players. This one however is a very lovely trait because we're gonna need a lot of swiftness for mobility, and this gives us a huge part of our swiftness that we need. And depending on what choices in weapon you will get, this will probably be your only swiftness source, so it can become a bit complicated. However, our choices, we get primal reflexes, so every 8 seconds on 8 second internal cooldown, every time you dodge an attack you get vigor, which is very good because we don't have many defenses and we need as much as we can. I mean dodges, so you always want as many as you can from. We go with hidden barbs, typical choice that you can't live without if you play condition. 33% increased damage to condition damage, to bleed damage, and this is the only change in the build basically. If you run short bow on this build, you will go light on your feet, so your attacks pierce and you do more damage and the cooldown is reduced. It's just perfect. If you're running any other weapon, we will get the weapon section. When we go to the gear, you will always run quick draw. So you will get skill that you can use twice each time you swipe weapons. We're not power players, so vicious quarry is irrelevant to us. This build is pure condition. Now for wilderness survival, you again get the typical miners, which you regenerate endurance 25% faster. Every time you dodge you get 2 seconds of protection to you and your bit, and protection from any source will heal both of you, which is quite good to give you some survivability, lower the damage that you get, soften the blows from enemies with the protection after dodge, so even if you can't time it correctly it's very useful and you can keep up healing, and this is very good. Again, the typical lesser muddy terrain, so every time we use our healing skill we get this area under us and it will do immobilize on the initial land and start bolting slow and cripple, and also will remove condition because we choose awareness knowledge, so every time we use a survival skill we'll cleanse 2 conditions, and muddy terrain with troll unguent are both survival skills, so we cleanse 2 conditions from each, so 4 conditions. And you cleanse condition on bit swap. You want as much as you can from this. A solo roamer will always be outnumbered. For me at least, I always go into fights that's way more difficult than it should be. I am not fighting 1v1s. Typically you will always get too many people trying to defend this camp, tower or keep, so we'll be end up fighting 1v2, 3 or 4, stuff like that. So we take, for more survivability, we take empathic bond. For Untamed, I go with Blinding Outburst, so this skill, the first ambush skill for the bit, on 10 second cooldown will do the blinding and the poison. All the Unleash Ambush skill do an extra effect if you land them on a CC'd enemy, like if your enemy is already dazed or stunned or whatever. This one will do vulnerability, the second one will give slow, the third one will keep bolting chill. And our second choice, we go with Corrupting Vines. So now the skill 2, which actually normally would remove 2 boons, will now corrupt them. Not only that, every Unleash Ambush skill, so like for short bow, this one basically, that you can target towards the area and shoot it, or for the other weapon, whatever it is, you will be removing 2 boons. And I also run Let Loose, which means every time I swap weapon, in combat, I will reset my access to the Unleash Ambush skill. So I can go with double Unleash Ambush and also can corrupt with my bit. And if I choose a bit that actually do corruption, we will get to the bits in second. That means I can remove or corrupt a lot of boons, because this bit can corrupt 2. So 2 from here and 2 from here, and also 4 from the weapon. That means up to 8 boons that can be completely destroyed if you land every hit of them. Besides, in World vs. World, unlike PvE, your access to Unleash Ambush skill is actually on a 15-second cooldown, not the normal 10 that have been adjusted in PvE, which means the only way to speed it up or speed the access to it is through weapon swap, because weapon swap is only on 10-second cooldown. So it's a good advantage to have more. The might itself is irrelevant. It's basically almost non-existent to us, like we don't care about it. However, I guess it's good to have. But we are here for the resetting of the skill. Besides, the Unleash Ambush skill will give you the effect of the Life Siphon, so you can heal and do extra damage through it, so accessing it faster is a bit of your sustain too. This is the traits and how we play around them. Basically, this is the only one you will change if you're not running short bow. You will go with quick draw, but this is basically stable. Now let's go with the gear itself. I go with full Trailblazer, everything Trailblazer as you can see. All my trinkets, all my accessories, my armor, my short bow, except only the staff. I go with the staff of Apothecary with healing power. Since I'm running short bow and staff, my staff is a kiting weapon which I can heal, I can save myself from projectiles, stuff like that. I can simply move around with it and I only do damage with the other weapon. And because staff is basically survival weapon, why not have some healing power, so it will just bump it up, because you're not really into doing damage on staff itself, and the healing coefficient is quite decent, so a little bit more was enough. And I'm still running condition damage on it, so it's quite decent. My rune is still the Trapper, and both my weapons have cleansing and energy, so whenever, if I start the fight in short bow, which is normally if I need to survive, I switch to the staff, I get a dodge, and I cleanse to condition, and I can move immediately. So if I get ambushed in the staff itself, or even when I moved and the enemy teleported on me, or burst me with other sources, I can start cleansing or whatever. But I also can go back to short bow and engage while saving myself from some conditions and have an extra dodge, not really becoming vulnerable the moment I go to short bow. And unlike Druid, for example, you don't have the ability to change weapon while on the weapon like Celestial Avatar, so I can put it on 2 weapons and have no conflicting cooldown between them. That's why I go with both weapons with cleansing and energy session. So for my skills, I go with Troll Unguent, I go with Mutate Condition, Sharpened Stone, Lightning Reflexes, and Entangle. However, the only really stable skills here, like the build need, is Mutate Condition, Sharpened Stone, and Entangle. You can change the healing skill, for example, for Perilous Gift, this skill, so it will give you 3 seconds of no damage whatsoever, which is very strong, and also give you super speed if you're trying to move, and stability, so if you're kiting with it, you have a lot of increased survivability. However, the idea of healing by a percentage of what you lost, you can never really fully heal from it, even if you have other sources like the staff or the ambush. It feels a bit weak unless you really lost a lot of health, and it will save your life. Besides, it's on 30-second cooldown, so that's a bit longer than just 24. You can also run the trap if you like playing with it, with the combo field and some healing and stuff, but it's unnecessary. Besides, unlike Druid, for example, we don't need too many condition cleanses and keep stationary like the trap, because we have muted condition, and the Druid, unlike that, doesn't have a skill that can simply save it from all the condition and just get you out. You have to get multiple sources, except if you use something like the Signet, and I hate the skill for so many reasons and how much it can fail easily. So Troll Unguent is the best, but you always need muted condition. It really can save your life. It's a stun break that will remove all condition from you, and if you use it while the bit's unleashed, you give it even vigor for more dodging, so it's really nice. Change your condition into vulnerability stacks for each one, and you can cleanse the vulnerability for other sources like Sharpened Stone or whatever if you need it, like against a very heavy power damage build or something. Sharpened Stone is necessary since we only do damage through one weapon, whether short bow or other weapons. I will get to it in a second. So we need to be able to have some form of a burst and build up enough damage so the enemy can actually waste its cleanses or actually die, not simply keep healing through your condition damage. So Sharpened Stone has to be run in this build. Now Lightning Reflexes was not the first choice I went with, there's other choices, and I ran Protect Me a lot to keep it more tanky. You see, Untamed for example have this minor, Vow of the Untamed, so reduce the incoming power damage from enemy a lot. You also have this trait which give you more vitality, that's why I have 24,000 health. And I have a lot of toughness through this huge amount of Trailblazer. I have armor of 3,300, my toughness is more than 2k. So getting more protection that will heal me from this trait, especially if I'm kiting and have even more healing, it will be more. Being able to stun break my bit, since in solo roaming it will just stun break your allies, so your bit's one of them, you can simply make sure to land its hits if it got CC'd by accident or whatever, and having also barrier to absorb some of the damage, especially against power players, was nice. However, like I said, all the sources of tankiness, even different sources of protection like the turtle, like the Unleash Ambush skill of the staff can boost protection, your own dodges, I found the necessity to cleanse more and the ability to cleanse condition like the Immobilize was great. Without Lightning Reflexes, if you get stuck with Immobilize, with multiple condition sources, you can go through multiple skills here to cleanse until you reach cleansing the Immobilize, so now you can move, or even have to change weapon early or something like that. So Lightning Reflex is a dodge that will give you vigor to help you dodge more, will cleanse Immobilize and will cleanse two conditions with 24-second cooldown only. So in the end I actually went for it, even so most of my testing time actually was on Protect Me, but this one just changed quite the game for me. It's much better. It's really one of my favorite stun breaks for Ranger in general. Now Entangle is one of the skills, like I said, is that you shouldn't change. Why? Because you want to be able to lock the enemy down and burst it, and you don't have multiple sources for this. Even for Druid you have multiple sources of CC, multiple sources of Immobilize, so there is too many ways to just hold the person down. You don't need more defenses like the stability from Force Fortification. We are condition build. Power builds are glassy, they want ways to reduce the damage, they want the certainty of stability so they can burst or leave. But this was a waste. The Entangle, if you're really burning the enemy's cooldown bit by bit and then land your Entangle, it becomes very valuable. So the enemy really struggle from getting out, and you can shut them down immediately with your CCs after, and even getting your bit to do free condition on them from the Unleash skills or to own skills. So the most important skills here, Muted Condition, Sharpened Stone and Entangle. The other two, feel free to change them. It's really up to how you play. If you play with other people, maybe you can still go with Protect Me, so you help them with Stun Break. If you have people that can heal you, maybe you go with Natural Binding, so you lock people even more and make it more difficult for them to get out. Like, it's up to you what you wanna do, but this is how I run it now in general. Now for my bits, I go with Turtle. Turtle cannot be changed. The other bit, however, will be up to you, but we'll explain why I choose what I choose. Why is Turtle? For a start, it's a very good bit with two CC skills that you can control and land with your own control. Like, I don't cast any auto skills on Turtle. I control them by hand. So it's a projectile that do a lot of days to the enemy, and it's a launch from melee hits, which it's easy way to also to press it just to move Turtle to follow the enemy trying to cast its melee skills. And we have Hunker Down, which gives us protection, healing us and the pit, and also destroy projectile. You don't have a very active defenses or way to shut down the enemy's damage or reduce it significantly. We don't run Signet of Stone, we don't run Force Fortification, I don't even run the healing skill, the new one. So having multiple sources to simply shut the enemy's attacks or reduce its efficiency is very good, which comes the projectile defense. So now we have this skill, and we have also the Unleash bit skill enveloping his to save us from projectile hits. Especially, like I said, we are solo roamers, so we are meant to fight outnumbered. 1, 2, 3 players, and it's very difficult. Unlike Druid, when you have stealth and even better mobility and stuff, you are quite limited here in what you're gonna do from damage and what you're gonna do for survivability. So having more is just great. Now lastly, it is a tanky bit. It have a lot of health, 30,000, and more than 2k armor. Untamed can be significantly shut down. It suffers more than any other ranger and more than any other build if it bits killed. If the bit's dead, you can't access those kills, so you lose the condition, you lose the defensive side, so you lose a pressure, the ability to deal with boons, the ability to do damage, and you lose the defense side from enveloping haze. Those skills will not work if your bit's dead. And even when you switch, you have 1 minute cooldown now because your bit is dead, and the other bit have to survive for an entire minute. But guess what? It will become easier to die, which means you will have another minute to swipe bit, and you get in a cycle that's very difficult to get out of unless you really work on it or reset the fight. If you reset the fight or got out of combat, if you ride your mount, your cooldown of the bit got reset completely and your bit become alive again. So don't fear to use it if you ever broke combat in the middle of a fight, or if the enemy just stopped following you. Immediately ride your war claw and your bit will become alive again, and no cooldown for the bit as well. So we want bits that can save themselves very well and not die easily or accidentally. And not only Turtle is tanky like that, Turtle stick in place and doesn't follow you or follow your enemy unless it got out of its range. So it simply cannot keep getting cleaved by mistake. The same thing goes for the other bit, and I go with Spine Gazer. So why is Spine Gazer? Spine Gazer have a boon corrupt, which is very good in order to burn through enemies' defenses. We don't have too much damage. We only use short bow and we keep attacking and just use other skills with sharpen stone and stuff. We don't have multiple sources. Basically we have one weapon to do condition damage. Even Druid have Celestial Avatar to really lock the enemy down, and again use, just like us, its utility skills, and even every immob it can land will do even increased damage because of the traits. But if you noticed, we do not have traits that even support condition in Untamed, not really, like only the bone removal and corrupt and stuff like that. And comparing to Druid is much stronger. It have two traits, Eclipse and Blood Moon. So this low side of damage, you want to have too much cover condition and a spike in damage or burst in order for the enemy to not be able to cleanse it, hopefully the longer the fight goes. So the best bits that can pull this off is Spine Gazer and Iboga. Iboga being the best obviously because it have Mobilize and CC, so it's really strong in how it can lock the enemy. However, Iboga is very weak. Look at the toughness of this thing, it's way more even than the Turtle. While if we run Iboga is very glassy, incredibly glassy. It can die with 2 hits against a player with enough damage. That's why I went with the Spine Gazer. Now we have even extra corrupt that can be spread around into multiple enemies, up to 5 targets around it from 900 range, and it can apply blind, confusion and torment from other sources, and it fight from range mostly. With that in mind, it's like the Turtle, it doesn't really follow the enemy, so it cannot be cleaved by accident again. That gave us another problem. So those were the advantage of running Turtle and Spine Gazer. While the downside, Turtle have 2 CCs, which is great. However, Spine Gazer have no crowd control, and the only crowd control we have on the build itself is short bow 5, and if you run Warhorn, you would have Warhorn 5 with a daze also, and some limited access to Immobilize. And another downside, which is micromanagement of the bit can become insane, since they don't follow the enemy and you only have this teleport to get them to the enemy once and then start using chill and stuff. If you use this and it's not following you or the enemy, it will be standing here doing its own bubble and stuff, and you're out there trying to chase an enemy. Now you don't have the effect to defend you or anything, so you would have to keep using Return to Me and Attack My Target to micromanage this bit, and they are not on the same position in the normal bit like if you play in Druid or Soulbeast or whatever, so it can become a bit overwhelming. And in PvE, usually you won't need to use them, you're just hitting NPCs that doesn't run from you, you spam your skills and you and your bit standing in a specific area, and if you need it, you just press it and you're fine. So the micromanagement become difficult even for someone who main Untamed in PvE, because the way you use your bits become completely different. The way you need to position them and make them follow their enemy or ball them this way or this side. So this is a bit of a problem because both my bits will not chase the enemy normally. I have played the build for like 5 hours total or 4, so I wasn't really able to get used to it this much, and I make a lot of mistakes in fights. But if you get to really being accurate in using this micromanagement tricks, it will be quite fine, and you will get both the benefit of the bit not dying accidentally, and also you will just move it normally to your location in case you need to. Now another trick before we leave the bits, if you notice this skill, it have delay, as you can see, before it activated. So there is sometimes this trick, if the enemy keep moving and you want the bit to catch them before they just flee or something, you can press it first and immediately press Venomous Outburst. So for example, if we do it like that, if I press it first and then press Venomous Outburst, it teleports before the skill actually cast because of this delay. So the moment it appears on the enemy, it will land the blind and everything, and it will corrupt the boon immediately. However, if you started with Venomous Outburst and then this one and the enemy moved, the enemy will be out from this and the bit will not actually chase them to land it. And if the enemy moves too fast, even if your bit actually chases the enemy, it will still be out of the radius, since it have a very small melee radius. So cast this and immediately cast this after. The delay is very small, like quarter of a second, so your bit will be able to teleport immediately and land both of them. Now let's talk about weapon choices. You don't have to run the staff and you don't have to run short bow. Like, weapon here are completely free. It depends on what you want to run. You just need a condition weapon or both condition weapons. So why is this choices, and what is the advantage and disadvantage of other weapons? So why I'm running staff? Like I said, solo roamers are bound to fight in outnumber and very difficult situations that you need to get out of. And having multiple sources of projectile defense, like this skill, and also for the turtle this skill, can't hurt to also have the staff, which you can combo for even more heal, and you can run for very huge distances. You can catch enemies who's immobilized behind you, and so on and so on. Besides, it make it very easy to land this skill with the auto attack, and the Unleash Ambush skill will give you some decent healing, like it's 6 times 337, and also will give you some protection, which even more healing, and blind the enemy, which even more sources of defenses. So the staff is a defensive side that allow you to move freely and heal, so you can keep up with longer fights against difficult opponent. We are condition players. We do not finish fight fast or easy. We need to take our time, and that's why I like staff. I just enjoy it on Droid and on every roaming build, so I put it there. And this is why I have it. If you remove the staff, there is not much weapons that can allow you to move freely or kite. Like, you can use sword, which will give you some dodges, which is quite decent, but you have to cast double skills, like cast 2 skills to only move you 600 and they move you 450, which is still less than the staff, and there is no healing. So it's nice, but you will not be able to move this freely. If you go with smoke skill instead of spine gazer, you can use such combo even with the warhorn for stealth and keep moving around the fight quite easily. If this is your thing, do it. Why don't I do it, which seem to be one of the smartest options, running with warhorn sword or even sword dagger for an extra dodge and even some really good damage combined with short bow or whatever the other weapon you're running. Because of my ping, melee attacks do not connect correctly with the enemy, so most of the time I almost completely avoid melee weapons in competitive modes, because you hit, you press your button and your enemy standing here, but they're moving to a side. Your character just getting like jagged behind like that and land their hit here, and the enemy is here. So most of my melee attacks do not land at all because of this problem, or the ping problem. And there's few weapons or like a newer design in a way that don't really have this problem much unless the ping really spike, like the dagger. The dagger is actually quite decent in the way it tracks and it hits, but sword, for example, is horrible. Great sword is probably one of the worst when it comes to this ping. Like like you're running with no weapon, like you can't hit anything almost most of the time. But if you don't suffer from any ping problem and you like using melee weapon, use choices like that. So what are the choices against short bow? Short bow is easy, it's range, it's consistent damage, so you're always doing something because the auto attack itself had damage. And there is a melee side like it, which is the dagger, and it has the highest damage from all the options, because the Unleash Ambush skill can do some significant damage. The axe is ranged, but it's quite weak in competitive. It only do 2 hits that spread around with Immobilize, Vulnerability and Bleed, so it's probably the lowest. It's not even 4k damage. The dagger is way higher, it's close to 10k as you can see here, or even more. From the teleportation skill, which is Unleash Ambush skill, it actually teleports you to the enemy. So it's easier to land, it can do vulnerability too, it's just very good. And it's a group hit, it's fast in casting, unlike the short bow, it's quite slow and silly, and you struggle to get used to it. I still struggle used to it. I have usually my mouse like up here, and I want to hit someone like right at my feet or something, or behind me. So I would be changing to the weapon, and my mouse is here, and I forget, and I just cast it in the wrong direction. I used to put my mouse up because I always have to move with the staff or something, so it's easy to immediately press it and just move elsewhere. So most of the time I have my mouse in the upper area. So the dagger is great. It's probably the best and the most oppressive option, but it needs melee. You have to be doing most of your damage in melee and locking yourself to the enemy. And that put you even in more damage and more danger. So it's good, but it is melee side, so if you run it with short bow, for example, that's great, but you will not be able to move, so in solo roaming and outnumber fights, you just die. So it's up to you if you want to use short bow or use dagger. And axe, like I said, it feel a bit weak. I didn't really like the axe as much, especially that the auto attack doesn't have condition, so I have to go through some skills and that's it. The same for offhand, you can use dagger or use warhorn. I like dagger more because of the survivability and the pressure it can offer. Besides, warhorn is not really useful this much if you're not running something like smoke skill. The daze is nice, but that's about it. The boons are irrelevant unless we took in swiftness, and the vulnerability from this skill is irrelevant. The damage is irrelevant, so I didn't like warhorn, but if you use smoke skill, obviously it's an obvious choice. Like we said, there's too many options. You can run almost any weapon if you want. You can run even spear for stealth and just move around with it, but there's no damage. Like we said, this is a condition weapon, so it will be replacing the staff. The older version of this build, before they gave us the ability to access other weapons with Breeze Auto, it was End of Dragon version, and I used to run Greatsword for the block and dodge and stuff. Now, what relic do I use? So, if you're running short bow, I use Relic of Speed. Because if you don't need to survive, or if you didn't start kiting and your aim is not running from you, so you also don't need to chase them, I use the swiftness from this skill to keep up my mobility, and I can move very fast. And speed relic is just the best. You don't have stealth like Druid, and I don't even have smoke skill. I'm not trying stealth in this build at all, so enemies can always track you and can always damage you. So being able to move faster than they are is crucial. And you also have swiftness on weapon swipe. So if enemies are moved, corrupted or whatever, or if you're simply trying to kite, you immediately go to staff, you cleanse 3 condition from the sigil, you get another dodge from the other sigil, and you simply move, you have in swiftness, and you're running faster than anyone unless they have in super speed or the lyrical speed itself. If you're not running short bow, you can be stuck in weapons too much without access to swiftness, and even if you switch weapon, it's the same thing. You only have 9 seconds from this trait on a 9-second cooldown. We lost the Celestial choice, it's not great, it's weak in damage and survivability. We have to run Trailblazer, so we don't have boon duration. So if you're running anything but the short bow, I would go with Relic of the Wayfinder. It is slower, clearly, from the Relic of Speed actually. You will not move as fast, you will move like someone with swiftness or normally is. And it will give you super speed on the initial start of the combat, and that's it. But you will still have a reliable movement speed at least. But if you run short bow, you get the speed relic. And that's also another side of why I like the short bow, because the survivability gets increased. You don't have to be in melee at all. You can move faster than anyone, whether you're chasing them or running from them, or at least as fast as you can. So short bow did it for me this way. My food is still the same. I use any regeneration food, and I use Corsair tuning crystal for condition damage and expertise, condition duration, and if you run them, these are my stats. Because of the Trapper rune, I have a 61% condition duration, and I also can get extra 10 from Light on Your Feet. So my damage is really decent, more than 2k here, and the auto attack for 500 plus and 1200 if you are flanking. Even Entangled doing some really decent damage, more than 10k, so it's really quite good. Now let's compare this build a bit with something like Druid. Okay, Druid is the king of condition in general if you're playing condition ranger. You can obviously run 2 condition weapons and do some insane damage in 1v1s or duels or whatever, but this is unrealistic for a solo roamer. If we talk in solo roaming, you have to have a way out, always a way to kite, and even the ability to survive, at least, not even have to win, but to survive multiple players at a time. If you can't loosen the enemy's grasp on you, it's not roaming thing. Simply fighting one player always, or fighting with group always, this is much easier and the build can be much freer. Druid, however, always have like access to 2 weapons. Think of it like that: the Celestial Avatar and the weapon itself, and its utility can help with it. He has the ability to juggle a fight for very long. You can keep healing, stealthing, moving, resetting, stuff like that, which mean it is the optimal form of playing Condition Ranger. This would be probably a very large topic if I want to compare this and talk about the balance side that Anit did on Condition Rangers for roaming and what they did to roaming in general, so this is not the video for it, obviously. However, this build struggle comparing to Druid. It's very tanky, which is an advantage over Druid. You have more health, you have more toughness, you lower the damage even more. You have multiple sources of projectile defense. You have the ability to deal with boons, which can be very surprising to enemies. Especially in 1v1s, the ability to burn through enemies' boons, it just makes their tempo off. They can't do the same things. They now have stability, so they secure themselves for the next hit, but now they don't have it. They have protection in order to lower the damage, but now they don't have it. Stuff like that. You always mess them up. Even their fury, so they can't run their critical hits. The ability to just burn through the boons himself is very good, and Druid obviously don't have access to it. And even if you change the bit choices, you lose on the CC side, so it becomes quite problematic. I'm comparing to my Druid build. So the advantage in the offensive side is the ability to burn through the boons and having a serious focus on condition damage, even more than Druid, because you don't run as much healing. However, the downside, you don't have access to Celestial Avatar and the effectiveness it comes with it with Blood Moon and Incubus. You don't have stealth for your survivability, but you at least have more toughness and more healing and more health, and even can control Ingwent freely with more healing than the trap, stuff like that. So if you want the best build in general, I would say the Druid, except if you really like running with groups, or you don't run in this much difficult fights and you want to really be able to burn through the enemy's boons and have some pressure, have projectile defense to help your allies or something like that, then you can go with Untamed. But other than that, Druid is obviously the better choice. So that's it for the video. Feel free to ask anything in the comment or discuss the build. I hope you enjoyed the video and find it informative, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.